part of how they can may be able to recognize that you're having a hard time with self-love is to see where you are in terms of how you feel, what emotions come up, what feelings come up when you see someone that you know doing really well or succeeding or being celebrated in some way.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, that
like
makes
even
sense.
like not even business wise, but like if someone you know has a really healthy, beautiful relationship, how does that make you feel? If someone lost weight, how does that
Especially
make
when
you
you're in a place
feel?
of lack or not
Right,
having that.
right. If you're
Yeah.
in that place of lack, where does it come from? It comes from not having enough self-love.
Hey guys, welcome
Hi.
back. So it's been a minute, but I feel like we're both, finally in a better place to kind of get back to this, and
Yeah.
just learning to go with the flow. But
Yeah.
but we want to welcome you back to free therapy, where the therapy isn't necessarily real therapy, but I'm a real therapist.
And I'm your spiritual guide, that side person in the shit show where it says, "Hey, I'm just kind of watching this, but I'm also here. I have to be part of it." So, your commentator, maybe? Yeah, sports
Yeah.
commentator. That's me.
Yeah.
But for life.
Well, I think one of the first things we wanted to address before we got into today's podcast about defining certain things in our life so that we really understand what they are, so we know how to address them. So we'll get to that later in the podcast, but what we really want to address right now real quick is something that we've noticed with people who are reaching out to help, which there have been several by now, so it's not meant to
We're
be
so happy that
specifically
you're
one
reaching out.
person,
We
but
appreciate you.
yeah,
Yes.
super
There's been a
thankful.
handful of people that have been reaching out to us and having conversations and being vulnerable. And to you, we are so grateful for you. We thank you. We are, we're happy that you've chosen us to be a space to be vulnerable and trusting with, and we're proud of you. But with that said,
with that said, those conversations give us life, but we also have to make sure that you understand our role. And I think we try to define that at the beginning with what perspective we have. But as we've made this further into this process, I think we both kind of readdressed, like, maybe we need to redefine a lot of our roles, definitions, things like that. That would be really helpful for you guys to understand what we're willing to take on in this, as we're doing this for free and of our own space and time. Is that, it's meant to be something that we volunteer at, that we add into the world. This is not our job. So in that sense, if you are severely in crisis, if you are suffering, like we all are, but like it's unmanageable, then I think we're both really would probably respond of like, if you're super suicidal, if you're super like I said, in crisis mode, you're not managing and functioning in your life well, and it's to the point where talking to someone might take years to get through what you're going through, I would say, for one, if you're in immediate danger, call 911. A hospital will take you for free. If you need to go to somewhere, like honestly, when I was younger and suicidal, being sent to somewhere that could help balance me out and give me the support and structure that I needed would have been really helpful. And I know a lot of people are scared of those things, but like those things are
those
life
resources
and death.
are there, and those are real.
Yeah.
If you're having any suicidal ideations, or you're just thinking about it, like if you have written a suicide note, then it might be helpful to call the suicide hotline. This also works if you are self-harming or thinking about harming other people, and it's like something that you can't get rid out of your mind. You can call the suicide hotline as well. They're a 24-hour support line. We will put the phone number in our description box. If you yourself or you know someone who is in need of it, please use those resources.
Right. I think, starting off, we were really maybe directing towards populations of people who, were really interested in self-growth, and they were in a place of like, maybe even if it was an action stage, like they were actually taking action, or even if it's like they're somewhat coming self-aware of these things and they actually want to start working on them and putting effort into them. That's what we're here for. We're the
Yes.
how-to
If
tips
you need a
and
cheerleader,
support.
if you need some
Yes.
extra tips, if you have
Yeah.
like one or two things that you maybe are like, this is what happened, and you want to kind of talk through them, like,
Right.
a breakup or something like that, we can support you.
Right.
But we are not meant to be long-term therapists.
Right.
Yes.
We
are not
yeah.
replacement for actual therapy. We do
Yeah.
suggest I think everyone should get therapy. I think therapy is amazing, and I think that it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you.
Right.
We have both been to therapy. I mean, you're a therapist, so you can speak to that as well. Therapy is just a space where you
get to talk about you for an hour. Who doesn't love that?
You get to talk about and break down your thoughts. You have someone who is a professional, who is trained in knows how to deal with that, who you will not shock, who you will not make afraid, who you can say literally anything to, and they will not judge you. They will be objective. They don't care about any opinions you have one way or the other. Like, they're there. Literally, you are paying them for their time is to sit there and help you break down your mind and thoughts. And I think that everyone deserves to have that in their life, because we all are very complex thinking beings. But yeah, with that said, we are not that person for you. And we can't be, because we don't get paid to do that.
We don't have space in our life to hold that, because I mean, if you're going to a therapist, you're going to talk to them for an hour. I mean, I don't think we're saying that we would not speak to somebody, but we want you to be okay when we say, it doesn't mean that we don't want to help you when we say you need a different type of help than what we can offer you right now.
We can't,
because even in my
way.
previous job, like, I would have people that I'm like, this is a higher level of care than I can provide. And we would have to sometimes IBC people and help them get that higher level of care, because even as a work therapist, that was not my job, is to provide crisis care to people. And in that situation,
other
this
people are
is not really a safe situation and ethical situation, because we're this coach. That's what we've presented ourselves as for legal reasons and things.
Right. And we are just people living in this world, trying to be like more of a friend and acquaintance every once in a while, if you have a question or a thought or concern. But yeah, no, like we were saying, not a long-term option. We cannot guarantee you when we will respond, how long we will respond for. Sometimes it's you responding, sometimes it's me responding. So there's like, I'm not trained as a therapist like you are, but sometimes I'm the one who we have decided to respond to your messages, and I don't have the training to help you sometimes in the way that you might need. So anyway, so glad we put that out there. But overall, we do appreciate the support. We are here. Our inbox is open. We will assist you when we can. But yeah, thanks for supporting us so far. So let's go ahead and get into our topics for today. So we were talking about how sometimes we need things to be defined, right? So in our lives, we need to like clearly understand things before we can really understand the true objective, right? So before we can take action. So I know for me personally, and I'm sure you can speak to this too, before I even had any inkling of self-love for myself, which was honestly not that long ago in my life, when I heard the term self-love, it's like I could kind of envision the end result and what that person externally would look like and act like, but I didn't understand what it meant to get there and what it actually means to be self-loving, how it manifests within yourself and your daily life and your mindset. I had no idea. Like, I didn't even know how to get started. So if you are
and that wasn't something we were taught, so it makes sense.
No, exactly.
That we didn't know that.
Exactly. And so
this turns into a generational thing, so it gets deep in there of why. But like, let's not focus on the why you don't have something. It's like, let's focus on like let's create this for ourselves. You get to start over whenever you want and have it look however you want for who you are.
Yes. It doesn't matter how old you are, like you get to do that whenever at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really important too, because I think like a lot of definitions have been censored for us into only meaning certain things, like the big dynamic question of like, what is art? Well, does art have to be a specific thing? But really, a word is just a connotation that you give meaning to. And honestly, we're all so different that you, just like art, can decide what it means to you, what you take out of it. So like my definition of self-love and what I've adventured into and journeyed into of what looks for myself might look what's different, but we want to open your horizons to what these things are, because just like anything, like rape, you know, there's been a long time of like people thinking it has to be this brutal thing, but then like it encompasses anything, any unwanted, unconsensual. So that's what we want to add to like a dark example, but what we want to open up the horizon.
We can use
for,
love
like,
too. Like, love is one word that you use to describe how you feel about your partner, but it's also the same as how you feel about your child, but it's also the same as how you feel about your coworkers and distant cousins. Like,
so knowing it's not black and white, but that there are sections,
a favorite teacher,
layers.
like, you know what I mean? It's all the same word, but it feels different for everybody. It feels different with everything. Like, it's this fluid, overarching word. It's so big that it's like there's no one way to define it. So if you like our definition today for the items that we're going to give you, take it, love it, hold it. But if you don't, toss it, fuck it.
Well, and let's also remember that like it's so important to, as growth is like you evolving as a person. So that means taking in information, and is it, you know, similar to something you have, and can you replace it, or can you add on to it, or is this a whole nother compartment? So like be open to gaining new perspectives and aspects of love, and like definitions, and not maybe sticking in the black and white because it's easy and definable, but like staying in the gray, because like giving yourself the permission to change your mind about things is like one of the best things you can do. And that's not even in just definitions, that's like you restructuring your whole life, you know? Giving your permission. I've been like giving myself hella permission lately, because it's something new I found, and I'm like, I can give myself permission to do this. It really is. We're truly just this hurt child that never leaves that hurt child place until we allow ourselves to leave it, you know, and give ourselves permission to like explore what it would look like to like not hold our hurt anymore, you know, and just live and love
to begin with.
So what would you say is like your definition of self-love for yourself? What does that look like?
Okay.
And different aspects. So like give us the variety of it, or even your progression of like self-love.
Yeah, okay. So self-love for me, like, so I would have always thought that this was in relation to body and image, which all becomes in relation to other people. But self-love is how you view yourself as not just your body, but as a person, as your soul, your moral compass. Like, it can be the things that you like. It can be how you handle things. It can be how strong you are. And I think that for me to understand self-love, I had to understand what it means and how it feels when I fall in love with other people. So how I have fallen in love with other people is how I am working towards loving myself, is falling in love with myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I am focusing on, I think the journey is a huge part of it. I don't want to focus just on the outcome, because I think how it shows up in my life is really different all the time. But self-love for me manifests, I think it's best to define it by how it manifests in my life, right? So yes, it is physically taking care of my body, drinking enough water, making sure I do breath work, making sure I do exercise, making sure I eat healthy foods, bubble baths, all of those things. Yes, the physical part is definitely a huge part of it, but also self-love for me is healing through my traumas, validating feelings that I had as a child that didn't get validated, the actions where I would have reacted really differently. So it's seeing my growth within that, like getting, how I think about childhood bullies or how I think about exes and in relationship to them. It's like not holding on to any anger or hate anymore to anybody or anything, and especially
and like
not myself.
Increasing your understanding too, it sounds like I've heard you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what lowers your anger, is by increasing empathy and understanding and compassion.
Exactly. Like starting to have a lot more empathy and compassion for other people, starting having empathy and compassion for myself, being patient with myself. Because even like in the act of learning how to love yourself, there is a learning curve. Like you're not going to jump, most things in life, you're not going to jump into and just fucking be good at from the start. Like,
and the radical self-love is so deep. It's like
it goes so deep. It goes so deep. You can be spending your entire life learning how to love yourself, and and
you should, but make it fun and feel like that draw to it, and that's what helps your life be more fulfilling in each moment.
How do you define self-love for you?
So I think for a long time I thought it was like the same as self-care. Like you do these things, you do this self-care because you love yourself enough to do these things. And then even that really, when we were growing up, wasn't put into much importance to like even take time for ourselves,
Right. Exactly.
And restore
ourselves.
So anything for ourselves. I don't think, besides being independent and all these things, I don't think areas of like love were given to us, or self-care, besides physical hygiene, So I think I started doing hobbies and I noticed how it made me feel. So I started relating that to like, okay, somehow this is happiness, maybe it's connected to love, but really I have kind of noticed through my journey that I don't think, we reach complete self-love until we can like really just kind of reconstruct ourselves with our inner child in mind, which there's so many areas of us and traumas that will happen in our future that like that's what the continued life journey is, So what I had to realize is that, okay, for a long time since I started school, I've been really working on my mental self, like lowering the things that like, made me feel a type of way, like things that triggered my depression and anxiety, and all the while doing these things, not realizing like I was working on my self-love because it didn't seem like it was related, but it is. Because the fact that I care enough about me and my energy and wanting to do better in my life, that alone is like me progressing in my self-love journey. But I just had not been able to see it like that. And like I said, in school, I was given a lot more definitions, a lot more education on things like that. And then, before Moana was born, I started really getting into more of a physical place with my body, drinking, like you said, drinking more water, eating healthy. I was biking almost every day. Like I was in such a good flow mentally and physically. And then for the first time in my adulthood, after finding that balance and that level place of understood self-love and being super independent and happy and just not angry, and I was just flowing through life and just always trying to work on myself, but also finding it just really easy to flow. And then, like I said, that for the first time in my adult life, like Moana came along, and this extra responsibility that I can't just give away now is like something that really rocked that boat, which is just that little, like we all have those turns in the road that like, make us have to realize and reframe and allow ourselves to just change our mind about things. And what I didn't realize is that I had been working really hard on myself for so long and not even touching like the depths of myself that needed to be healed.
Yeah.
So I think for a long time, up until now, I've just been cleaning the debris after a natural disaster in my life of what was
Mm-hmm.
the things that were handed me from my childhood that I didn't want. And now
Yeah.
I'm sitting here ready in a somewhat peaceful place and willing, even though it sounds scary and hard and all the things that are telling me to avoid it like I have been, but I'm not. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is I have felt the universe open up and pour into me, literally, physically, metaphorically,
Mm-hmm.
all the things in my senses. I have just realized, like, as I've grown to a place with the people, surrounded by the people I'm meant to heal my inner child, I realize
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even still in this place of where I can take real serious action in my self love, but I'm doing as much as I can with what I
Yeah.
have now, with what
That's
I
all you
possess
can ever
now.
do.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with mine. But
Yeah.
I do believe it's a holistic thing. I,
It,
as a
it
therapist, have
is.
grown to believe
It's
everything is holistic.
everything is
You have
holistic.
to
I
address
mean, it's
for
it's
self-love.
body image, it's how you talk to yourself, it's your consistent thoughts, it's how you view other people, it's how you take care of your physical
Yeah.
body, it's how you take care of your mental body, it's how many boundaries you
How
have,
you show up, how you present to
how
the
you show
world,
up,
the
and how you
energy
show
you
up for other
project.
people. And it's like, you
Yeah.
think how you show up for other people and how you react with other people doesn't really have anything to do with self, but it does, because you are a self that is in this world. You are a
Yeah.
self that's reacting in this world, like
Yeah.
responding with love rather than anger, responding with love rather than jealousy or
Yes.
hate or fear, any of these things.
Which
How
all
you
come from
show
our
up.
inner child and trauma.
Exactly. And the more that you, like, that's the paradox in life, is the more that you learn to love yourself, the more you will have love and nothing but love for other people. Because someone who is
Yeah.
self-loving truly, they're empathetic people.
Yeah.
They're able to see, because you can see empathy in other people before you see it in yourself. You can be
Yeah.
empathetic and connect with other people before, I think, you really can with yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's like those two things go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
It's like, if I am seeing someone and recognizing their hurt and recognizing that that was a hard time, then I eventually can recognize that I also have had that and had a hard time, and affirming that within yourself, and
Yeah.
validating your feelings for things. Yeah, it's
And
fluid.
a big part of me, even if I know what it means to love myself, and it's very easy, and it's still really hard to allow myself, but
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of all the emotions that come up and the hurt. A hurt is a big part of me that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't addressed in myself to be able to self-love enough to, like you said, be able to have that with everybody else, because constantly we're projecting what we feel in our shadow self
Yeah.
towards other people. That's why we don't see things a lot. We like,
Yeah.
oh, like
You get
me
so
in my
caught up in your own
relationship
shit.
feeling like really, insecure and stuff about it is literally, after every talk, it's not him, it's just me. It's just my trauma, the things I have picked up. And
Yeah.
again, everything is connected to self-love and love, like we've been saying.
Everything.
And when you're on the right path. And I read something the other day that, like, if you don't mind, like, it's just a paragraph, I thought I'd read it, but like it kind of goes
Yeah.
along with what we're talking about with self-love, trusting your intuition and your gut
Mm-hmm.
and being in it, and knowing that
Mm-hmm.
if you're operating out of a loving place, like, you can trust yourself because you won't do anything wrong. Because if you're out of that place,
Mm-hmm.
like, you can't. So what
Yeah.
it says is, like, I offer the idea of rejecting the mind's judgment as a possibility to someone. Recently, they looked horrified, but what if my gut told me to go out and kill people? Someone or something has to stop me. We're so used to the authority telling us to do that telling us what to do, that we've lost the reflex and confidence to listen to our gut. We're so habituated to gain wisdom and information from outside ourselves. We've completely forgotten that a life lived rooted at home, like within ourselves, arises from peace, love, And in this place, we are never going to rise up and commit genocide. That kind of behavior can only emerge from an isolated and conflicted mind.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good mood, baby.
Oh, I was feeling good in her body.
I feel good. Okay, so we just went over self-love, defining what self-love is. We're going to go into next the other aspects of self-care and self-love, which is self-care. So self-care, what does self-care mean for you? What is your definition?
I think it's, to me, it's now tied to self-love, like I was talking about, but like,
Right.
for me, the act of service you do for yourself to continue to have your glass empty enough for you to trust your other problems, the world, other people. Basically, it's something that helps me find my calm and grounding. But self-care can be anything from physical hygiene, exercise, how you eat, like the hobbies you have, the things you for yourself, like self-care can be a spa night, like, we said, but like you run 5 miles every morning, like whatever,
it can definitely be those things.
Good for you,
Yeah. I think self-care, to make it even broader, I think self-care is what you allow space for mentally. So when you meditate, when you learn to release trauma, when you go to therapy, when you have conversations about past trauma and you work through that. Self-care.
Really, like, what are you doing?
Anything. Yes, healing,
or like stress,
healing to take care of your mind, soul, and body. Yeah, because I think spiritual stuff is really self-care for me as well. Like I think you would agree, like reading my tarot cards, that's definitely a huge part of my self-care. Right. Yeah. And, for me, getting out into nature and being able to connect with the divine in that way, that's really self-care for me as well. Yeah. I think it's, how you allow yourself to lovingly take care of your mind, soul, and body, and how you choose to show up in this world for all aspects of you as a whole person to be better, do better, and love yourself more.
These
are very tied to
do what?
It's very tied to self-love, is what I'm saying.
These are things that I like. I increasingly see more in patients when they are doing well in their life. Like a lot of times when we're struggling, if you have, different types of things you're struggling with your mental health, like any depression, anxiety, like even ADHD, these things can distract from your ability to feel like you can do things for your self-care. And this is, I think, where we encourage you to like continue any self-care that feels approachable, because like out of momentum is in that one direction is going to get you going into like your whole radical self-love. Because if you don't have any of acts of service to yourself, like if you don't show yourself your love language and do things that like feel for yourself, then you're not going to have a lot of energy to meet that we want to give to other people, So these, to me, are what fill your Sims level up to our
Sims
yourself, like
facts. Yeah, if if you've ever, oh man, this is like millennial deep. If you were a kid in the early 2000s and you had your parent at some point in like 2006, somebody, parent, grandparent, gave you a fucking desktop computer or a laptop, maybe, I don't know, one of those giant dinosaur laptops.
Dude, Bonnie's brother used to have it on his game console, and there's there and play that.
It's funny because there's a lot of sim content on YouTube right now. like that I've been seeing. But Kelsey and Peaches, I don't know. She used to, I don't know if she still works with BuzzFeed, but she used to work with BuzzFeed if she doesn't. And she had like 100 baby challenge with the Sims, where she tried to have one Sim make 100 babies. Was not possible. But she did make 100 babies. She just kept the lineage down generations and generations until there had been 100 babies. But yeah, nonetheless, yes,
out on babies. Even though I don't think my body can produce 100 babies either.
No,
so
I don't think any humans can. Oh no, but yeah, sim level. Love that reference.
Yeah.
Love that reference.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of talk about with checking in with ourselves. Like, how you need to do some more self-care.
Right.
This is something that, dude, it is so easy to skip it. It's so easy, like even just washing my face, which is now a self-care for me. Like, it's so easy to want to skip the things because sometimes they feel like we forget how much they put into us to know how to enjoy it, I think. And then it just gets totally sad when we're like super busy and you have kids. And like, I think we both kind of get that. But like, I think we're on the other side of it where we realize the importance of it and how it makes us feel and renews us, that we make a priority and set time and establish time I mean, I have to have like self-care time for me every day. So like once Moana goes to bed, like I sit and I do my nighttime routine for me, which is now journaling and reading and painting and like, you know, just doing things that really, really like I enjoy and that create good spaces of energy for me.
Yeah. Creating good spaces also, for me, like, I mean, not just like I'm in my cozy nook with string lights hanging down. I made, I literally, I would take you off the stand, but it's too hard to put it back on without it falling over. But I like, so I have a baby and we co-sleep and she was falling off the bed. And so I took my box spring and divided my room in half and put my mattress on the floor so that there is nowhere for her to go, and made a like cozy space. So it's right by a window, and the window has candle, sea salt, crystals, lotion, jade plant, books, vaporizer to put make the air smell nice, and a salt lamp, and my tarot cards right now.
A safe space for yourself.
But not just physical spaces, but I mean in relation to that, but like creating safe spaces, like as part of my self-care, creating safe spaces to release emotions. Like, it's hard, I think, for a lot of people to allow themselves to cry. That's how I feel. And I think that it's like, if you can create a space and a time where you can kind of, for more lack of a better term, make yourself sad enough to cry, watch a movie, watch The Notebook, listen to sad music, anything to get yourself in that mind space. And what I do, like, I'm a tub crier. I get my bathtub, I got some coconut oil and some bath salts and some candles and some like lo-fi beats, or something like that, and lights are off and just the candles are lit, and I'm listening to sad music or something like that if I'm not listening to lo-fi beats, and I'm just allowing myself to cathartically cry. And it's like this safe space that I've created for myself, because I think that that comes from, on a side note, we don't need to get into this, but I think that comes from like not feeling safe in general as a child. Like, you didn't feel safe enough to cry, you know?
Which is crazy, because I remember my mom, you know, our mom crying a lot with school and stuff, but it's just like every other time it was like, you know, just suck it up, like, you know.
But I feel like
convenient to deal with us crying and our emotions, I think. Or just like triggering, I'm sure, hard and triggering too.
And also it's like, when your parent is crying, sometimes it feels like you can't cry because you'll make them more sad as a kid. So it's like you're almost becoming a caretaker in an emotional sense. Yeah, and it's like if you tell yourself as a child, like, I don't have someone that's my safe space emotionally, so I can't, so I don't have that. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't think we were
Yeah.
taught that we could be that for ourselves. But creating that for myself now, that's a huge part of my self-care, is creating that
Mm,
space where I feel
yeah.
safe within myself to release that.
What I'm
Yeah, I
realizing
do that now.
what I'm realizing is that a lot of these definitions that we're talking about, I've had to restructure and reframe and add, assimilate more information into it, because maybe I grew up
Mhm.
with a certain definition in the 90s, and that really wasn't full allowance. That was like a structured, like filtered, like, you know, censored like box. And then I'm
Mhm.
realizing that like there's like a wide range of like things that these things can mean, and like deciding what it means for me, what actions I
Mhm.
choose to do differently now because of this new information that I'm taking in.
Right.
Like, a lot of these things, like I see you creating spaces. It's like we really are like, you can create the space within yourself. And like, as long as you have something
Mhm.
that like you can somehow create that, if you feel better with it in a physical sense in your home or something,
Mhm.
like you
Mhm.
have the ability to do that. Like hang up some lights, create a comfy corner that feels really safe for you. Like that's what they
Yeah.
say for timeouts now for kids, is create a sensory safe like space to just
Mhm.
feel all those emotions. And like sometimes when we
Mm.
get these things, we have to learn to create them ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of us
Mm.
get upset, and we want to play the victim role, which, to an extent, definitely, like if that's where you need to go. But like sometimes we have to take control of our life and say, yeah, I feel really sad that these things were not provided for me and they should have been.
Mhm.
This is your chance to create that new change in the world, so that those around you, even if you choose not to have a family or kids, like those
Yeah.
around you, friends and the family you already have, they see these things. Like
Mhm.
especially self-care stuff are tangible, like things that people can see. But like even I think with us too, we've seen the self-love for ourselves grow in each other. And like
Yeah.
inspires me, and I think maybe, I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like maybe sometimes it inspires you back.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's
It
what healing
does.
community is. So
Mhm.
even though
Yeah.
you're having a hard time creating these things, that's not fair, it wasn't meant for you to create, but look at all
Mhm.
the things that you get from it, and you get to create that not just for you, but show other people what it looks like to create
Yeah.
those things themselves,
So even if like you don't want to focus your life right now, if you're not in a space where you can focus your life on like doing it for other people, like you're like, I need it, but I like, do it for
Right.
you. Like
Yes.
do it for
100%.
like, you don't realize, like, as a kid, I wanted to build forts all the time, and I wanted like cozy spaces to crawl up into and feel safe. And as an adult, you still, like, it's a very natural thing to feel that. You know what I mean? It's very natural to want to do that. So don't think it's like childish. Build a fort or something, man. Do something really cool. Even if you don't have a child, like do it for you. I think my child brought a lot of my like creating for self out to actually
Absolutely.
doing
Out.
something that feels like it now. Yeah. And it's like I really did it for me because like it feels good. And I mean, physical space doesn't always relate to emotional space, but sometimes if you can create a space that physically feels safe, you your mind will allow you to release what
Yeah.
doesn't feel emotionally safe,
Yeah.
like,
Which is the importance of doing all these
yeah.
things, because you're going to get overwhelmed and burnt out. And, our mind can do crazy things if
Mhm.
we don't help it release things like, a soda bottle, as they always equate,
Mhm.
feelings to. Like if you're this soda bottle that you're never slowly releasing this pressure out of, one day it's like
Mhm.
Mentos in a Pepsi, and
It's
so
gonna explode. Yeah.
what does that do your life though? When you explode, when you aren't releasing these things in you, does it create more havoc and chaos in your life and more debris that you have to pick up from? And then so it feels like a tornado's hitting, once a year, and you're just barely getting things picked up before the next thing comes. And that's why sometimes we have to be really scared and brave and courageous and work ahead to like kind of catch a break sometimes, and it always comes at like last hour where you're like, I am dead, and it's like, no, it's okay, you have 20 more miles to go. But when you get through with those 20 miles, like, life is still going to be hard, but you're going to know you can do it. You have the things set up to do it. You have the new like thought patterns to like go behind your actions, and it's just you're gonna know.
Yeah, for sure.